Hi economists, in this short video I will briefly explain consumer surplus and producer surplus. So let's start with a few definitions. So we're looking here at the competitive market concepts of consumer surplus and producer surplus. An IB concept that's relevant could be efficiency. And if we start with a definition of allocative efficiency, this is where an economy is producing the quantity of goods most wanted by society. So the economy is allocating resources so that society gets the most benefits from consumption. And to define consumer surplus, I'll show you on the next slide. It's the area under the demand curve and above the price paid by the consumer up to the quantity purchased, which is at the equilibrium. Consumer surplus is the difference between the maximum price consumers are willing to pay for a product and the price that they ended up paying. It'll make more sense when I show you the diagram. And producer surplus is the opposite. It's the area above the firm's supply curve and below the price received by the firm up to the quantity produced. And producer surplus can also be described as the difference between the amount producers get for selling a good and the amount that they want to accept or willing and able to accept for that good. So let's look briefly at the market for apples. Here we've got consumer surplus and producer surplus in the competitive market for apples. So consumer surplus is this triangle here. So you've got your demand curve and you've got up to your equilibrium, and all consumers pay the equilibrium price, but there are consumers up to this point that will be willing and able to pay a higher price as shown on our demand curve. So for example, there are Q1 quantity of consumers that would be prepared to pay this higher price of P1, but everyone is paying PE. So that's why we put our consumer surplus in this triangle. And in this triangle, under the equilibrium price and above the supply curve is the producer surplus. So there are producers, say at this point Q2, quantity 2, that would be prepared to accept the lower price of P2, but they're receiving the equilibrium price. So all of the producers up to the equilibrium quantity and price would be prepared to accept, willing and able to accept a lower price for apples, but because they're all getting PE, therefore they are getting a producer surplus. So we put that triangle in here. So at the point of competitive market equilibrium, the sum of consumer and producer surplus is at its maximum. So these concepts are really important to understand where they sit, because once we start shifting these curves around, we are going to impact on the size of our consumer and producer surplus. So you must understand these basic concepts first. Thank you.